So I think we're good to go. We'll start, and as others join in. Okay, cool. So hi everyone. I am Priyavrinda, and I'm a sports psychologist. Currently, I'm working with the Youth Indian Women Boxing team and the National Boxing Academy in Rohtak. And it's been a phenomenal journey from being an athlete to being a sports psychologist today. Um, and before I get on what actually sports psychology is and how a sports psychologist can help you, um, I would like to share that being an athlete, I've struggled a lot with, and I'm sure a lot of other athletes would resonate with me as well, that the lack of awareness with the fact that, no matter how much we try to train and, no matter what we do, we're perfectly equipped when it comes to the technical aspect and the physical aspect. But, something when we go on the competition, we're not able to achieve our desired goals. And that used to happen with me a lot of time. I got back-to-back injuries. You can recover and come back stronger from one injury, second injury, third injury, and then you're like, what, this is not working out for me. So that is actually what happened with me. And after 4 consecutive injuries, I just gave up. And a lot of times I think now, if I had proper guidance back then, if I had like a mentor, an expert who could have helped me out and cope better with my emotions back that time, with my injuries, uh, maybe I would have played better and I would have gone a little longer in my sport. But having realized that and the really big loophole that we have in our sports, that is what encouraged me individually to take sports psychology. And it was quite a niche field about 4 or 5 years back from now. But now with time, it's actually pacing up. So so sports psychology, basically, just like psychology is study of human behavior and emotions. So just like that, sports psychology is the behavior of how study of how the athletes' emotions and athletes' behavior, and how we can interpret that and use it for their performance enhancement. How can we analyze and observe an athlete and help them to become the best version, of themselves? That is what sports psychology is in gist. And there are a lot of myths attached with sports psychology and even psychology for that sake. um, People think that you if you have to go to a sports psychologist only when there's something wrong with you. Okay, that's not there. It's more of a preventive science than a curative one. Okay. That means that you can there are a lot of things that we can develop, like a lot of coping mechanism that we can develop. We don't have to especially go to a sports psychologist if there is a dead end, like, there are a lot of athletes who come and then, they're like, I've done everything, I'm training my best. I think I'm the best in my game, but still I can't, improve my performance. That is like the edge where most of them comes. Okay, nothing else is working out for me, so I think I'll just try this. Okay, so it's more of a preventive way, like how we can build up our mechanism, like how we can be the best version of ourselves before even coming to that burnout stage. Okay, so, and especially nowadays with the increase in competition in sports, if we actually observe all the top 5 international athletes, if you see tennis for that sake, or any other sport you can pick, all these 3 to 4 top players, they are actually at the same level technically, physically, their fitness would be the same. Who wins on a particular day is the one who's able to be stronger when it comes to the mental aspect, who's able to be more resilient on that day, more grittier. So that is the kind of edge that the mental training gives us. So being mentally strong, that we are able to endure more, we are able to give our best on the day that it actually counts. That is where the sports psychology comes in. So there is an analogy that I would like to give you so that it gives you a clear perspective of how important sports psychology is, or how important mental skill training is for an athlete. Think of a plane with 4 wheels, right? So one wheel of the plane is basically our physical capability. One is our technical consistency, and one we are tactical awareness, and one is your mental training. So these are the 4 wheels of a plane, and the body itself is your mental health and well-being, where the fuel that goes inside the plane is your nutrition, your sports nutrition, your recovery, your rest, right? This part. So that is how important mental training, sports psychology is. It's basically a wheel of the entire plane. So we have a lot of emphasis on the physical training. We have a lot of emphasis on the conditioning, on the technical part. The athletes literally train twice, 2 times to 3 times in a day, 2 to 3 hours each, right? That is the amount of time that they put in the physical and the technical part. But when I ask the athletes, okay, how much time do we devote to the mental part? And they're like, what do you do for that? Motivational talks and lo thodi si, yeah, like just pump it up, use your friend like family, thoda sa motivate kar de. That's not it, right? There's a proper procedure how we train ourselves mentally. That is where the mental training part comes in. So because of the lack of awareness with the importance of mental training in athletes, but with the given time, it's been realizing because a lot of international champions, a lot of top players, athletes have actually addressed to the mental health lately. And we have athletes like Michael Phelps, Usain Bolt, Djokovic, Rafa. A lot of them have actually addressed to the fact that yeah, they go to they have a sports psychologist who's helping them in and out. A lot of national basketballers out there, footballers, a lot of skiing players. So it's been used by almost about 65 elite Olympians who participate in the Olympics game. So what and how a sports psychologist can help you. All right. So the basic main issues that an athlete face we have is the fear of failure. There's always the most common thing is that I train really well. I'm real. So we have coaches who say that the athletes is really good when it comes to training. They're superb, and I just feel that they're made for this game. But when they go in the competition, I just don't see it. Like it's just not it. And when you ask the athlete, he's like, I don't know. I know I'm the best. I can really do it, but पता नहीं क्या हो जाता है मुझे competition में जाके. So this is literally what about 80% of the athletes actually face, what we call is sports performance anxiety. And other than that, there are a lot of issues like motivation ki kami hoti hai. There's commitment issues that some athletes can have. They're not like they want it, but then they don't want it bad enough. And so a lot of them, they have little problem in understanding or execution of the skills. They take a lot of time. Like they're good, but they want to be better. So in all of these things, how does a sports psychologist actually come in the picture and help? So basically, it's like a triangle. It's the athlete, the psychologist, and the coaches and parents. It's like all of them working together. So the more unanimous the effort is the more holistic the growth will be. So the how we actually use or we help the athletes is with the issues like motivation. And see, for example, I'll take the first basic part is that the athletes are really good when it comes to the preparation and the training part, and when they go to the competition they literally freak out. And some of them, like there's some athletes who go up to the extent of choking, right? That's extreme pressure. So how can we actually eliminate that? So when a psychologist, when a mental trainer comes in the picture, so basically it's just that the amount, how do we actually feel when we are practicing? It's fun. We're very relaxed because the outcome does not have a lot of weightage, right? We're just easy. It's like any other day. When we go to the competition, it's the thing that we were preparing for. Like I've been preparing for 1 year. My coaches expect this thing from me. I expect this thing from myself. My parents are there. So there's a lot of pressure that we've built up on ourselves. And the other way, how it should be, is the other way around. Our practice needs to be as tense, as upbeat as possible, and the competition day has to be as relaxed as can be. If you see the example of Usain Bolt, have you seen him participating before in the Olympics game? If you see him, there's music in the background and he's just dancing. He's all relaxed and he's giggling, and people are like, dude, like, what the hell is this, right? Because his aura, he's so calm, and that is how any would want to be, as calm. And that's such a competitive phase. It's once in 4 years that this opportunity comes and everybody is out there. They want to give their best, deliver their best, make their nation proud. And this guy is out there and he's just so relaxed. When the whistle blows, he's just out there and there he is and he's won the medal. So what is the secret of, for example, Usain Bolt? The fact is that if you see his training videos, he does not, you will never see him smiling and for those 4 to 5 hours in the entire day. He doesn't smile. You will see altogether a different version of Usain Bolt. There's no champion move, there is no that giggling, that laughing. That is because the way you want to train, like you put all the pressure in your training, you immune yourself to that amount of pressure in the training and the preparation phase, that when you come to the competition, you are so confident in your skills. That is one of the ways, because the muscle memory, it actually absorbs all the pressure, because you've put in all the pressure in the preparatory phase. So when we're out there in the competition, we can be as relaxed as we can be, because we know that we've actually devoted and given our best. Okay, so that is one way. And athletes like Michael Phelps, they use like Michael Phelps really uses imagery, which is one of the most important mental skill that is used in sports psychology. So imagery or visualization is basically it's a technique, it's a way how we sit back or we lie down, we make ourselves really relaxed, and we imagine ourselves, we visualize ourselves playing the game. So for example, if you're a swimmer, you would really relax yourself and close your eyes, focus on your breathing, conscious breathing, and then you would imagine yourself actually going to the pool, and here we activate all our five senses. It has to be as real as possible, activating all our five senses and feeling how the water feels, hearing what we hear when we actually go in the pool, seeing what we see when we close our eyes. So it has to be, our imagery has to be as real as possible. And when we do that, so basically the trick is the mind does not know the difference between what we are imagining and what is actually happening. So it's actually that effective, and it can help you beat your performance anxiety. It can help you it can help you develop your confidence, because and one way is where a lot of athletes, a lot of people, what they do is they always focus on the better part. Like, they make their imagery and the visualization as positive and as crisp as possible, like, oh, I'm just winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. But that is not right. You have to make it as real as possible. So when we talk about real, that means it has to be as rational. So rational basically means you can prepare yourself through, you have to prepare yourself through all scenarios. So when I say scenarios, that means, for example, Michael Phelps in the Beijing Olympics, what happened was, once the race started, within 50 to 55 meters, he got water inside his goggles, and so basically he was partially blind, and the rest 150 meters he was completely blind. So, and how he was able to do that, give his best and win a gold medal, is because of his mental rehearsal, is because of imagery. That is how effective imagery is. So because a lot of athletes, for example, like Michael Phelps, what they do is they inculcate mental training in, if they're practicing for about 8 hours. So they do up 2 hours of mental training. That is their goal setting, analyzing their goals, and the visualization part. Literally getting into your skin and closing your eyes, making yourself relaxed, and just visualizing yourself. How does it actually feel to play? What does it feel like? Just feel every small details. The more real you make it, the more beneficial it is. And there are two perspectives how we can do it. One is the internal perspective, and one is a third disassociate perspective. Internal is when you close your eyes, when you start doing the visualization, it's just in the process. I'm feeling, if I close my eyes and if I'm swimming, I'm just seeing inside the body, like, how it actually feels like. And the other is that I'm probably watching myself from the stands. If there are commentators, if somebody standing from the stands, how will I look if I'm doing the race so fast? If I'm how will my hand movements look? So these are the two ways. So you can analyze which way works better for you, and then you can try that. Then there is a lot of See, a lot of times is that the way we talk to ourselves really influences our behavior, and that comes up to our actions. So the athletes, there's a lot of self-doubt when we interact with the athletes, and it's always like, so they're actually good. You know for a fact they're good, and then you get a feedback from the coaches that this athlete is very good. But when you talk to the athletes, they're like, पता नहीं मुझसे हो पाएगा कि नहीं. कहते तो हैं कोच, कभी कभी मुझे लगता है कि मैं अच्छी हूँ या मैं अच्छा हूँ, but पता नहीं, something is missing. So when you have something like this, you can very evidently observe that it is the self doubt. It's coming from a place of self doubt. How do we work with such athletes? Is firstly get into the skin of the beliefs and the values, okay, and to change or to have a influence on their thinking process, is because there's always a way looking for their strengths. Once you make the athletes analyze that, the way they're thinking, okay, this is a continuum, this is positive and this is negative. So we don't have to be on extreme side, okay. What they are currently doing with themselves is they're on the extreme negative side of the continuum, okay. We're not telling them to be absolutely positive, but we can be and we must be as realistic as possible, and that can only be done that analyzing their game, okay. If they're working hard, okay, what ask them about, and if you're an athlete, work on what are your strengths, what is that you're actually good at, because no matter how, even if on the worst case scenario, if we're really bad and we're really improving, there might be still a lot of things that we are really strong and we're really good at. There might be a lot of strengths. So once we work on our strengths, we have a clear picture, okay, fine, this is what I'm actually good at, and okay, fine, if these are my weaknesses, then I can work on my weaknesses and make myself better. So this is actually a very beneficial way to overcome the self-doubt, is that and we don't have to get into the entire concept of very positive self-talk. It has to be as rational as possible. So I always give an example to my athletes, and I tell them, imagine you were at your competition, and so you went out there and you gave your best. It was you've done whatever the best possible that you could, right? And once you've finished your tournament, like once probably if you're a swimmer, if you're a boxer, you're done with your bout. If you're a swimmer, done with your race, you come back and then and you've lost, right? So you call up your best friend and then you talk to your best friend and you're like, hi, this was I did my best, but I still lost. I'm not feeling well. And your best friend from the other side says, yeah, I know. I always tell you, leave it. It's not for you. You're not even good enough. And then you're like, how will you feel? You will be taken aback, right? Yeah, but I gave my best. This was literally my best. And then your best friend goes like, yeah, I know, but you're not good, dude. Like you have to work so hard, and I don't think you can do it because there's a lot of competition, and that and so girl is like so good. She's naturally got it. And so imagine in that moment, we will be devastated. That best friend that I'm talking about is our self-talk always, the talk that we have with ourselves. Because after any match, after any competition, the person that we're communicating with, the first person that you communicate with is yourself. And how you talk to yourself is very often the way I have just described, If you do your best and if you lose, you're like, oh yaar, बोला ही था उसने बोला था कि मैं I'm not good enough, मेरे कोच भी बोलते हैं कि I'm not good enough, and मुझे भी लगता है क्यों खेलती हूँ मैं. So I have athletes, if they don't really care about how they played, all they care about is the outcome, it was so bad. And then you're like, dude, you gave your best, the opponent was actually very good for a fact, and this was your best. And all they will be thinking about for about 1 day, 2 days is the outcome, what, I'm not good enough. And they will go in the vicious circle of the negative thoughts loop, that is how it is. And finally, after 2 days, when they'll come back from the continuum of extreme negative self-talk, they will be like, chalo, theek hai, kuch nahi hota. Next time I'll work harder. And this and that. So why does this happen? Firstly, A is our self-talk. How we talk to ourselves has to be the way we expect our well-wisher or our best friend or our guide, our mentor to talk to ourselves. That is how we train the athletes, to keep the rational talk as real as possible. And the other thing is taking the emphasis from the outcome, this is a very, very big issue that we face currently is that the emphasis that we have on the outcome. So there's one thing that is called the process, and there's one thing that is the outcome. So there's so much emphasis because see, every time an athlete is training, the coach is emphasizing on the fact कि हाँ जीतना है, and the parents is like, you know, अगर तुमने ये if you don't win this tournament, then मैं game छुड़वा दूंगी आपकी, you know, and this is actually what I've heard from the athletes. You know, the coach is like कि you know, अगर मैम ये नहीं खेले तो फिर फायदा नहीं है, फिर इसकी ट्रेनिंग का क्या फायदा? And the parents are like, you know, this is your last tournament. If you don't win a medal, and I will, you know, this is your last tournament. This will ever be. So, and that time the athlete also puts a lot of pressure on themselves, you know, because all they see is the only way they evaluate their growth, their progress is through the outcome. That is where we're actually going wrong. Because see, you need to realize one thing for a fact: the only thing in your hand is your effort, right? Your effort, your 100%. If we focus all on the effort, that is your 100%, that is your process, the outcome will take care of itself. Means a lot of time what happens is um, there could be a lot of other factors also. You know, there could be cheating in some games. You know, there could be some environmental factors. Or how about if I have trained my best, if I'm literally training day and night, and I have this mindset which only says the outcome matters. If I am all about winning, and I'm preparing myself कि भाई national में मुझे सिर्फ जीतना है, मुझे सिर्फ जीतना ही जीतना है. So when that national comes, I know for a fact I've trained really hard. My coach knows for a fact I've trained really hard. But all that I have been preparing myself mentally is winning the gold medal. And then I have in my opponent who's probably trained more harder than me. Guys, we have to be as realistic, as rational as possible. What if that girl is actually really good? And on that day, even if she gets lucky or whatever way, I gave my 100%, despite that I lost. Okay. I will be devastated. I will not. And you know, probably even if when I was on the court, that was better than all the practice sessions that I have done. You know, it was like literally my best. How will I feel? I will always, what my mental state will be devastated, right? I will, only thought that will be going on in my mind is, am not good enough. I should probably leave my sport, right? This was the worst game of my life and stuff like that. So that is where we go wrong. That is the overemphasis on the outcome. And this has an equal role from the parents, the coaches, the athletes, and our environment, the media, okay? The need of the hour is the importance on the process. The more importance you put on the process of um, giving your 100%, and if that is not enough, if you still lose after giving your 100%, reevaluate it, refocus it, and next time do better. You know, if we go in from that mindset, that will be the real game changer. If there is a coach, you know, who's always motivating the athletes, you know, to focus on their best, you know, just go out there and I want it to be, you know, and the coaches, the athletes is like, I want to win. And the coach is like, I don't care about the result. Somewhere inside there, everybody likes to win, right? But the coach very clearly says, I don't care about the result, kid. I want you to go out there and have the best game of your life. You know, the kind of self-confidence that will put on the athlete is surreal, you know, because once you've said that line, or once the athlete has said to himself or herself that, you know, I want to go out there and just give my 100%, and I don't really care about the result, you know, what will happen is the pressure that you put on yourself will obviously eliminate it. And you know, the relationship between performance and pressure is inverse. You know, the more pressure we put on ourselves, the more performance declines, right? So once we eliminate ourselves from the pressure, our performance is bound to rise. We will go out there and give our best 100%, right? And if that is not sufficient, if we still lose, we come back, we work on our mistakes. We always evaluate and analyze our game. What was that we did good, you know, and what was that could have improved, and what is that we will work on. So that is how you work towards a healthier and works towards a better mindset, that is focusing on the process and eradicating it from the outcome. Always remember, the outcome will take care of itself. There is nothing that you can do about it. Okay, all you can do, all that is in your control, okay, is your effort. So focusing on the effort. If there are parents sitting out here and seeing it, if they're athletes or coaches, always, just inculcate this habit of focusing on the process. And there's one thing that is very important is the vision. So I always ask the athlete, what do you want to become? And they will be like, Olympics player, I want to represent the India for the Paris 2024 Olympics. And I say, wonderful, great. How bad do you want it? They're like, yeah, really bad, like I really want this to happen. Okay. And can you please tell me, give me examples that you're just doing justice to your goal? They're like, yeah, I'm training, and then but then if we come down and if we analyze how they train and the kind of mindset that they have, very few amount of athletes are actually very committed towards their goal. It's very nice and it sounds very good when we say all these things. I want to represent India for Olympics, but the kind of hard work that it takes, are you willing to put that amount of hard work? If that is yes, then in that picture, the vision, the goal settings comes in. So goal settings is a very integral part that we use in our mental skills training. So goal setting basically is we make SMART goals. So there's an acronym that says SMART. So always focus on making the SMART goal. So that means SMART basically stands for your goal has to be as specific it can be, totally on point. Then it has to be measurable. Like we need to be able to measure it if we are actually achieving that. How will you know once you've achieved your goal, right? It has to be achievable. Like it has to be challenging. It needs to get your blood all rushing, but it has to be attainable. And then it has to be realistic. Keep it as realistic as possible, relevant, and it needs to be in tune with your long-term goal and a time bound. There has to be a deadline towards your goal. So this is the SMART goal acronym. That is how you actually formulate your short-term goals. So if you have a dream that you want to represent India, if you want to play for Olympics, if you want to be India number one, very very rationally analyze where you stand right now, okay, and then formulate smart goals. Smart goal could be probably for a month, for 3 months, okay. Once you have a smart goal, every week analyze how much progress you made. So this is one of the most effective ways that we work with the athletes. We work on their smart goals, and every week we see the progress that we've made from the baseline. And once we evaluate it, it gives us a very clear perspective. If, for example, after a week, they've achieved what they had set the goal for, okay, and the next week they're not able to do it. So there's no point or there's no reason to get disheartened. The only way that we refocus ourselves and we will work on even harder than the third week, right? So this is how we do goal setting. And so this is about the winning attitude that we have. So for a winning attitude, two things are very important. One is your commitment. How bad do you want it? And when I say commitment, and when I say how bad you want it, it means that if thing goes according to your plan, if you play well and if you win, that's very good. Then that means you need to reevaluate and you need to work on whatever. There still might be a lot of loopholes or weaknesses or something that you want to improve, right? We'll work on that. And if we've lost, then we'll refocus and then reevaluate and again come with a better plan. That is means committed. At any cost, we're in it, we're in the game. One is the confidence. With confidence, like I say, once you do goal settings, when we have written goals, it really helps you to clear perspective because you know where you are right now, where you headed in the future, that part. And then your self-talks really helps you when it comes to your confidence. One is conscious breathing. Whenever you have all these irrational thoughts coming up, we really work on the conscious breathing part. That means getting into the moment and focusing on our breath for about, if you do it for about 5 minutes every day, it would be really good. So that means you, as calm as you can be, you can close your eyes and just focus on your breathing, deep breaths. If you can probably count. If you exhale in 4, okay, then you inhale in 6. So we can do it counting wise. We inhale and then we exhale. And when we have all our emphasis, all our focus is on our breathing, it really soothes you up. And once you do it for about 1 minute, 2 minutes, don't start really long. Don't go into the entire process because I have athletes who go like, "Ma'am, meditation nahi hota hai humse." You know, ठीक है, you should try because it really helps you to be more calmer. But mindfulness 101 really, really works. So for those of you who are not really aware of mindfulness is. Mindfulness is the increased awareness of the present moment without any judgment. So that means the more mindful I am, the more relaxed I will be. And then I will be very rationally able to look at my strengths and work on them and eliminate all the irrational thoughts. Mindfulness really is very effective. So how to practice mindfulness is, don't start very big. Just you can go for about 3 to 5 minutes every day. So how we do is, at any given time, we have 7 stimuluses hitting us at any given time. That is, 5 of them are external and 2 are internal. So the 5 external are our 5 senses. What we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we feel, what we smell. Okay, and the internal is our thinking. Okay, that is our thoughts and our feelings. Right? See these two. So at any given particular time, we have these 7 information stimulus that are affecting us. So being mindful is just being sitting wherever you are, relax, focus on your breathing, and just observe very, very carefully how you feel. Okay, and how does it just focusing on all the 5 senses. Okay, and then in that moment focusing on how is that what you're thinking, what is that you're feeling, without any distraction. You can have your plane on the airplane mode. 5 minutes, if you try to do that, and if it will really enhance your awareness level. It's really effective. It's used all across the world by a lot of athletes. And so once we are mindful of the small things, we become all the more relaxed, because what we know is control the controllables. There are a lot of things that we have no control over. So there's no reason of us to even go there. So what is in our control? What is that we can work on? So once we do that, that will really help us, obviously, enhance our confidence, because there's no place for the irrational thoughts. Okay, and one is, a lot of times we work with the athletes on time management, because see, there was a drift where energy management and all was used, but lately, so time management is how we actually use our time, how productively or unproductively an athlete or anybody uses their time, for that sake. So time management is, you analyze probably the last week. Take out 1 week and just see how you spend your week. Okay, so how when I work with the athletes with the time management, what we do is, we tell them to keep a book log, and so every day, by the end of every day, very specifically write these many hours were spent on this activity, this many hours spent on this activity, this activity. That means we have a very close analysis of how we're spending our time. And when once the week is done, then we combine all of them. And then, for example, by the end of it, you have 52 hours of sleeping, right? So in one a week, you spend 52 hours of sleeping. Once you divide that with 1.68, you get your percentage. That is 31% of your time was spent on sleeping, right? So that is how you actually get a very clear perspective of how you spend your time and how you want to spend it. That is consciously making changes towards a better you, managing your time very consciously. Because if I tell the athlete, okay, fine, just observe your time, and then next week we'll see. When I ask them, okay, fine, how many hours did you actually spend on mindfulness? How many hours did you actually spend on mental training? They will be like, हाँ मैम किया था थोड़ा थोड़ा. So consciously having a logbook will help you to evaluate that. After every week you can see, okay, yeah, I literally spent this many hours on just chilling and just on TV or on random things, surfing internet, and what I really want, what is my aim in life, and this is the amount of time I spent on mental training or actually my training. So this will give you a very clear perspective of how you want to evaluate further and change in your time. Okay, how we want to use more constructively our time. And then there is this thing, a lot of times what we have is anxiety issues with the athletes, right? A lot of stressors, and so how we deal with the anxiety, that is called, that comes under the emotional regulation part, is that, again, conscious breathing. Because most of our anxiety is always based on, see, the performance anxiety is always based on social approval somewhere. So if I have a tournament, if I'm getting anxious, it's always be about what will my coach think, what will my parents think, like, if I'm a failure or not, pata nahi if I'm good enough, what will those people say? So it's always dealt with all of these things. That is why in practice, when we don't have all these factors, we're able to play better because there's no as such extra pressure on us. So in this time, what you do is, when we have performance anxiety, is the belief in our skill. So when we know all that is in our hand is our effort, right? All that we know is through working through our process, and treating it like any other training day would actually be the game changer. Like if I just go out there and feel like, what, I am here just to give my 100%. Imagine if there's an athlete who's trained really hard and is on the competition day, the only thing that is in their head is, what, I'm here just to give my 100%. And I would obviously, who doesn't like winning? I would love to win. But you know what, I'll see about that. As of now, I'm just going to concentrate on my 100%. Okay. So that is how we actually develop it through our self-talk. Our self-talk plays a very important role. Okay. And for that, our conscious breathing just before our competition, about an hour before that, and your visualization really, really works. Because see, once we do our visualization and we use it in all scenarios, and we keep it as real as possible, that really helps us. Because if I know, for example, see, how we formulate the mental skill training program is a very individualistic approach. What we do with an athlete A will not be done with the athlete B. So once we identify where the athlete is probably having issues, so example, if there is an athlete with an anxiety issue, we know if the athlete really develops anxiety and it gets really anxious, on the competition day. So in the visualization, we'll help the athlete overcome those thought process as well, with the more rational talk, with the more self-talk, and with the more emphasis and realizing the fact that focusing on their process. So that is how we work with the performance anxiety. And so there's thought stopping that we work on, which is always about control the controllables. We work the athletes, like for example, we make these 4 boxes and we say that, this is what is totally in my control, this is what is somewhat in my control, this is very less in my control, and this is not at all in my control. So and then you come up with then we ask them to come up with their fears, what actually goes wrong. And when they say ki, I'm scared about this, then I ask them to put it into one of those 4 boxes. So I ask them, okay, fine, where it is. They say not in my control. If that part, like for example, working with the boxers, so since it's not a very transparent game, we deal with a lot of cheating issues. So at that time, and the athlete gets very agitated. They're like, cheating hoti hai, ye hota hai, and all of that. So then I ask them, list it, okay, fine, where does this issue come? And they say uncontrollable. So when the fact is uncontrollable, why, how are we letting it affect us? So see, once they know ki, there's nothing that they can do about it, and the only thing they can control is what is controllable. So that actually eliminates a lot of irrational thoughts from their mindset. So it is always good to identify the thoughts and to place it exactly as where it needs to be and work on it accordingly. Okay, so these were the few ways how we work with the athletes. And now if anybody has some questions, I would love to take them. And anybody? So like Abhinav said that how should young athletes cope with the pressure of winning and at the same time giving their best, right? Like I said that the pressure of winning, if we like take the focus out of the outcome and put it more on the process, how does it, like, a lot of times I tell the athlete to focus on, even when they do the visualization, is how does it feel like, when you're winning? Like, how does it feel? What are those certain skills that help you to win, right? So once we focus on the process, all that is in my hand is my effort, right? I can just go out there on my field and give my 100% game. And if I can trade day in and out to enhance my 100%, the winning is going to inevitably take care of it itself, okay? So sometimes take the mind off the outcome and just put it in the process. The more you put into the process, the more we focus on what is it in our hand that we can do. Even in visualization, what we do is a lot is working on the process. How does it feel like, play? How does it feel like to win? When I'm hitting a good shot, when I'm hitting a winner, for example, in tennis, how does that feel like? And then inculcating all the five senses. So that is how effectively you can deal with the performance anxiety, is by getting into the process as much as you can and taking the mind off the outcome. Okay. So the pressure before the match and concentrate in the match would be, one thing is, guys, have a routine. Okay. Like, you need to have a pre-routine, some probably two, three things you do before you play any sport. For like, conscious breathing would be amazing. Consciously breathing, focus on your breathing. Okay, if you getting whatever thought, see, the more we resist to any thought, the more it's likely to come, because the brain does not really comprehend or understand the word don't. If you say don't, I don't want to do this, I don't want to, no, 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 ye nahi chahiye mujhe. Okay, automatically we're welcoming it all the more. Just accept whatever pressure, whatever feelings you're feeling, if it's negative or positive, and then just ask yourself, or just run through your positive points. Work on your strengths, right? Okay, fine. These are this is what is I'm good at. These are my strengths. Okay. Once you have your technical thoughts, that is your strength, then just calm yourself, work on your breathing for about 5 minutes, then just listen to some soothing music, and just get ready for your peak performance. Just prepare yourself to give your best. When I ever have to tell an athlete, I never tell them, or I never ask them, and even my coaches, we never say, okay, fine, go win. We just say, oh, give your best. Like, our focus is always on, this has to be your best match. Just play like this is your last match. And how would you play? Just play for the love of the game. That is how it should be. See, we have kids as small as about 9 to 10, and I think it's not a bad age at all. It's wonderful, because then, again, because since sports psychology is more of a preventive science, so they will develop a lot of skills, such as enhancing their day-to-day confidence. Probably they'll be able to do their goal settings more, and in like few sessions, they have a very clear perspective. Like, they have the vision very sorted, and this will help them later on when they come and they deal with all these issues. When they have this peak performance time, when the pressure really gets built up, then they can actually handle it very, very peacefully and gracefully, because they know they have their coping mechanism built very strongly. Okay, so like, being in the zone is, yeah, mindfulness is actually what's in the zone. And I would also like to mention, there is a term called super fluidity zone. So we are able to achieve that once, see, once we've been a lot of pressure, once we're trying to, I'm trying so hard, right? So that is what, there's obviously, there's a lot of try, there's a lot of effort out there. Okay, if I go and if I have a competition, my match, and if I believe in my skills, whatever they are, as good as bad as they are, and I'm out there just to have a wonderful time, irrespective of what, that would automatically lead me to a zone like the super fluidity zone. That means no effort required, you're at your top performance. That necessarily mean the best, when it comes to, like, you'll be creating world record, but that will be your best performance. And once you have your best, you know how you want to work more effectively, like, how to get better. um thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I have seen call pro things feedback. Okay, voting actually helps. Okay, that's wonderful. uh Okay, how to handle the fear of injury, especially after recovering from an injury. Okay, so the fear of injury is actually, looping injury is actually very, very common in sports, because having said that, a lot of athletes actually, once they get injured, uh, there's a vicious circle of back-to-back injuries, and that is often because of the lack of awareness. Because if you have an injury, for example, you have to properly work through your rehab. It has to be like it says, like, as much time as your physio has recommended you to rest. You need to rest on that particular, because see, a lot of athletes are rushing in. been working with the athletes for about 2 years now. I know that the athletes are like, you know what, I just want to get out there, मेरे को बस आई एम परफेक्टली फाइन मैम, मेरा बिल्कुल फिट हो गया है, आई एम फीलिंग इट, मैंने बहुत जल्दी रिहैब कर लिया है, मेरे बिल्कुल दर्द नहीं हो रहा. It's very hard for them to not train when other athletes are going out there. See, once any athlete is training, it becomes a very, very close part of their life, and not being able to train is very tough for them. So they really put in their effort, and they get all the speedy recovery and they heal very soon. But has the injury actually healed? Because a lot of times there's a lot of weakness. We don't work on the rehab as much. We don't do the strength training as much, and we get on the field and we go out there. There's no concept of progressive overloading out there. We just go out there and we're doing it all and out. So then there's obviously more and more chances of re-injury, right? So once you work with the any sports psychologist during your injury or after your injury, they will work you through the process of how you've actually recovered from an injury, right? So once you know that your body is completely healed, your injury part is totally fine, and it's actually more stronger and strengther than before, okay? Then what is there to be scared of? If we do a progressive overloading, the body is obviously more capable of handling any kind of load. So it is more of the awareness and the knowledge that we need to have about the injury part. Not rushing in will obviously be the number one tip that I tell the athlete, because I tell them it's okay if it takes 2 to 3 days more, but we don't have to rush it, because as soon as we rush it and then they get so excited to be back in the game that it's zoop, the entire concept of progressive overloading is lost, and they rush it, and then obviously the injured part gets more stressed, and there's a lot of chances of re-injury. And visualization, we really work through visualization with the injured athletes, and a lot with their thought process, to keep it as rational and to keep their self-talk. So visualization and relaxation techniques are the two main things that we work with the injured athlete with, or even after their injury. Because like there was an experiment with the Stanford University where they divided the two groups, and one group was doing visualization, and so they were the group of basketball players. So one group was doing visualization and playing basketball just in the visualization, and the other was actually participating in going out there and training. So after 2 weeks, the MRI CT scans were done, and it was observed that both the groups showed the same development in the brain area. So the brain really does not know what is real and what is imagined. So if the athlete has not been able to play because of the injury, and if they work on their mental aspect, if they visualize their game, if they keep it as real as possible, if they work on the mental rehearsal, that will be very good. So once they're able to bounce, once they start practicing, it will not be a very big loop between where they left and where they're starting off. Okay, so sort of issues with the communication when it comes with the coaches and the athletes. So if you have a psychologist who could help you with this, so what a psychologist does is communicate effectively between the coach and the athlete. Other than that, you could tell your coach very clearly your perspective, okay? And if still that doesn't work, because see, a lot of times we have these coaches very fixed on a particular mindset, and they're like, this is what how it should be, and ऐसा ही athlete को करना चाहिए, ये चाहिए, उनको नहीं पता, and they don't really understand the fact that the athlete knows the best. Like, we can mold an athlete, but there has to be given due credit to their individual aspect as well. So the coaches impose a lot on the athlete. So in this time, effective communication is definitely the key to make the coach understand of why you think your way of practice or the skill would be more beneficial. If this coach is still a little adamant, I would always say that if you can avail services of a psychologist to communicate between the coach, would be very effective. Otherwise, it is really a very it's an issue. It's very trivial, because you work under your coach and you don't want to disappoint your coach, right? So you listen to him, but and then you feel that what you want to what your gut says is more it works better for you, right? Because we had a very similar example in one of the sports where the athlete, when used to play with her game, used to perform really well, and she was very, very good player. And when the coach imposed certain things, because he believed that she could do a lot better with that technical aspect. And what happened was her performance went down in a slump. So if there are any coaches listening out here, is always give your athlete their voice. Like always listen out to their opinions. Don't just go out there and imposing on them. Healthy communication is always going to be very, very effective. And always listen to the get a feedback from the athletes if what you're actually telling them is working out for them, or how they feel about it. Because the more autonomy they feel they have, the more their motivation also rises. Like we have okay, so hard work does beat talent, and nowadays I'm sure smart work beats talent. And the entire concept of being too old for to play any sport at any level, we have ample of examples out there who've actually proved it wrong. They started off so late and then they've gone out there and like just achieved it. So it's all about your willingness and your just your, you know, just being out there. How bad do you want it? If you think you banned it and you want it bad enough, and if you know that you were willing to do whatever it takes, just go out there. There's age is just a number. It honestly is just a number. How you can pursue sports psychology is you can do your get your masters in psychology or sports psychology, and like ISST Pune does has certification courses that would really help. And a lot of universities abroad have MSc in sports and exercise psychology that could be very beneficial for you. So yeah, that's about it. Again, about the match pressure before the start of the match and how to concentrate on the match completely. See, focusing on the match pressure. See, again, the entire concept of pressure is all about the expectations with the outcome. Pressure is obviously, every time you hear a word pressure, just understand it's synonym to outcome. So if we are so focused on the outcome, pressure is inevitable. Okay, so the moment you take your mind off and put it in the process, just don't think about how your match will end, just think about how you will play. Okay, so once you accept yourself the way you are, right, exactly the way you are, okay, this is how I am, I'm my game is such, I have been practicing. You have to give your mind rational reasons why you are actually good, or what is that where you stand in your game. If I am a badminton player, okay, and if yeah, so I'm not really good, right? But before my competition, if I have, I'm playing under world number one, like if I'm playing against the tournament number one, right? I would obviously be all like, oh god, I'm going to lose, right? This is shit, I'm so bad and this and that, and I'm not good enough. I obviously before the match is started have given into the pressure, right? Instead, what we can work on is, okay, fine, okay, she's really good, my opponent is really good, okay, but tell me, let's talk about myself, okay? If I have technical reasons, okay, there might be some positive points in me, right? There might be a lot of good things or positive strengths that I have in my game. My skills, probably my speed might be very good. My tosses might be good. I might be good in the rallies. I might be good here and there. So once I have a list of these technical thoughts, these are what we call the ABC, the technical thoughts. Okay, you need to have a list of your technical thoughts. So before your match, when the pressure is building up, just revise yourself. What are your technical thoughts? What is that you're actually good at? Once you have it, your mind knows rationally that you're actually good, right? That this is what you're good at. Okay, just focus on your breathing. Get into the conscious breathing. Okay, if you want, you can do visualization and just be as calm as you can be and just focus on the process. See, mindfulness is what? Getting into the moment. Don't think about how it will end up, what will happen once the match is over. Just think about how you want to play each, like each step, like how you want to play each point. See, a lot of time, like in cricket, it's used one ball. Like there was a time when Sachin was about to make a world record, and he was getting stuck and getting out on the 90s, 90s, 90s. How he helped himself was one ball. I don't have to think about the 100. See, it's very hard not to think about it. But again, I'm just going to focus on one ball. I just have to be there. I'm going to be here on the ground, and I'm just going to focus on hitting this ball right. That's it. That is all my focus is going to be in this current moment. What is going to happen is going to take care of itself. This moment is my focus. That's it. Sorry, ma'am. As of now, I don't really provide online consultancy. but like ISST does have a certification course in sports psychology. And if you are interested, you can obviously send me a message and then we can get in touch. Yes, mindfulness is advisable just before the match, during the match. It's See, mindfulness is way of life. There is no specific time to do it, right? You could be very well practicing mindfulness listening to me right here. That means there is no, so all your focus is right here, listening to me, that's it. That is what mindfulness is. Being in the current moment, 100%, without any judgment, without any distractions. So the more aware you are before the match, during the match, the better it is. See, that is how we use so like I had an cricketer, I was working with an athlete, and so there was a lot of issues with the sledging, like we have in a lot of sports. So how we dealt with that was actually mindfulness. So mindfulness, even practice in sports, is very, very beneficial. And yeah, if there are negative thoughts during the match, okay, so that is again once we work on the self-talk with the athlete, and once you're in the match, probably if you've hit the wrong shot and if you're losing, again, get onto the zone. What is now that you can control? Always have it in your mind, control the controllable. Okay. Like I told you about the four boxes, what you can control totally, what you can't control, somewhat in this. So that is what you have to work on. What is that I can control now? So if I have hit a wrong shot and if probably I'm losing, right? What I can control now is my next shot, is how I play now, my this current shot. So it always has to be, whenever you go into that continuum that okay यार negative thought फिर से हार जाऊंगी ये मैच मैं तो हार ही जा रही हूँ, get yourself back from there. आपका जो thought है ना, you have to stop your thoughts and you have to get it into that current moment, like in the moment. How am I going to play this shot? Focus on this shot. So once you're focused, it's like narrow and it's internal. It's 100% in that moment. The mind will stop wavering off in any negative place. See, ma'am, flat foot. For this, I think a physiotherapist would be able to tell you a bit better about flat foot affecting sports performance. And so once if the physio does give you a nod for the sports, and if the physio or the coach tells you that it's not much of an issue, then obviously we can work on the rational thinking and the thought process with it. And if anybody, I think that will be it. And somebody's asked me how can we acquire so-called mindfulness. I think you would be there are a lot of insights on Google. There are a lot of free books on mindfulness, but to break it down in the crux, it is being in the current moment, being 100% in the current moment, totally aware. There are a lot of free courses also for mindfulness, which I'm sure if you try it, it would be wonderful. All right. And I think that would be it for us. Thank you so much, ISST, for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And if there is anybody who would want to get in touch, can contact ISST or could send me a message on Facebook. That would be wonderful. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for hearing me out. It was wonderful. And God bless you. See you.